In your phone hold.
You got the phone over the stairs?
Hey there. Hi, Stu.
There's Susie.
Hello.
Hello. Let me get that a bit higher. Just setting up the camera. Nemesis would work.
The setup is very professional and definitely not stacked on top of
Well, it's better than my setup.
Are you at that?
Hey Russ, hi guys.
What about you, Jason?
What about you, Jim? Some butterfly stuff. Talk about sitting up on our opponent. Right. Yeah, let's get started. I know what we're doing. Right, so sit on me. We're going to look at addressing playing butterfly on our opponent. This is a battle of head position. It's very much like wrestling when you decide to sit up on your opponent. You've got to have a strong head when you sit up. So this goes everywhere. If they're on their knees, your head's got to be strong and dominant. If they're standing up on you and we're in a sit-up guard, your head equally has to be very strong. It's got to be high. It's got to be in the center. Don't get tempted to hide your head and hide your neck. What will protect your neck is a strong kind of extension with your head in the center of your opponent's body. You don't want to crumple to one side or to the outside of their leg. So yeah, last thing you want is to have your head totally collapsed or to allow your opponent to get their head underneath yours. This will then allow them to start hitting underhooks and flattening you out. So your head's always strong. If we're concerned about our opponent stepping inside for inside leg position, so if they stand up here, so if we're coming in this situation, see, it's very easy for them to win inside leg. I allow this to happen a lot of the time because I very much like half guards where I force the knee down to the ground. I end up in my knee slice half guard here. If you don't want that at all, what you can do, step out, is bring one heel close to your butt. So this really makes it difficult for your opponent to get inside leg position. So I'll find this position by keeping one heel close to my butt. back up. All right, so you can keep your heel close, right like this. So it's a good little position to put off one side and keep this heel close. So you stay center. This kind of feeds your opponent to one direction as well. So you don't need to bend it past it this side. It's very hard for it to get around to the So if we're able to win, normally a starting grip that I teach you is collar tie. So you've got a bad neck at the moment, so I don't really want to do that too much. But you should always be looking to control your opponent's head. Why they're not going to leave big underhooks open for you immediately. If you're keeping their elbows quite tight, they can be tight. The one thing they can't hide is this collar. Pull the head down, and that can feed into guillotines there. When we're attacking guillotines, it's really important that you don't pull her head over your hips. You actually want to lean forward over her head like this. So you see my butt is behind the line of my head. So this means it's very difficult for her to flatten me out. So try to drop, you know. You want to listen into your opponent. Shoulder hits the back of the head, the head down to the shoulder. Other time, we manage to pull the head down underneath our opponents, underneath us. Get in on the guillotine. We can take a chin strap here. One, where that your shoulder hides the back of her neck, your hips a long way back. What we may try and do here as well is walk around to the side that their neck is not on. If we allow this to happen, we lose the guillotine. We pull down. Yeah, so once we get to here, what I like doing, fall onto the side that her head is on early. Okay, so this will make it harder for her to get round to the wrong side. You can go arm in or arm out, it's up to you. About the arm in is that if she does manage to go around to the wrong side, so walk around to the wrong side, if I go high elbow, I can still finish the guillotine even though she's on the wrong side of me. So that's a benefit there. Pull down, head's underneath yours. Make sure you get this body shape where you're leaning over your opponent here. Shoulder hits the back of the head. Now we're going to go arm in. With this one, you want to fall down onto your right side, yeah? Making sure your hips stay wide. So you see how much distance she's got to travel to get round to the wrong side here. This leg will block any attempt she tries to get round to this side, so it goes quite high. From here, our shoulder drops as our hand rises up through her neck. So you don't want, with this guillotine, to punch your hand through. You want to keep the hand directly under the throat, bringing it up into the throat as your shoulder drops down into the back of the head. And that's the mechanics. So you've got to have two directions. So you've got to force something down to the back of the head and have something coming up. So it's a head fight, right? So in tournament, in training, people are going to be going really quite aggressively here to try and flatten you out, using their head as a battering ram. So you can catch them out a little bit. You can have a little sneaky relax of pressure as you're driving into them. They push back, and that can allow you to snap their head down underneath the line of yours. But when you do that, you've got to make sure that your hips are back and that you lean forward over the head. Can't stress that enough. If they're quick and they hop round to the wrong side, go without the arm in and flip a high elbow guillotine as early as you can. And to finish that, you actually want to fall away from your opponent. So if she's on this side of me, you fall this way and you get really tight guillotines with them outside your legs. So you snap off of the head fight, so I have a little bit of a fight here. And a little bit of a trick to get a strong neck in this position is to always be trying to look at your opponent's nose. The moment Susie looks at the floor, it'll be very easy for me to pull her head down. You should always be looking, trying to make eye contact with the nose.
Why?
To activate your posterior chain. The moment you look at the floor, it's a lot easier to snap down. Okay, so you should always be looking up So pull Susie's head down under. What I don't want to do is to pull her head down, get on her neck and start falling backwards immediately. There, she'll throw her weight forwards, shutting me down and start looking apart. So we snap. Guillotine, we go arm in for this one. Fall onto our side, making sure our leg is high, up on her back to stop her running around to the wrong side. Shoulder goes through the head as my hand travels up through her neck. And that's my guillotine. Off of butterfly guard here. So standard grip, always be collar tie. Big thing with the collar tie, do not try wrapping your arm around your opponent's head. Collar tie effectiveness gets worse the higher your elbow gets. Okay, so if you try wrapping your hand around your opponent's head, getting a good grip, so my elbow flips up. That's really bad. This is now easy for a copper and to get underhooks on. So make sure that's always vertical. Quite often I do this with an open hand. I'm not really taking a very heavy grip on the back of my opponent's head. So as long as you keep this forearm as a shield, I'm not grabbing her head, try coming at me now. Yeah. So always vertical. The moment I start wrapping my hand around and my elbow flips up, it pops up around and it opens underhook. So you have to keep this forearm vertical. So yeah. Sitting in, having your head fight. Do not have your hips close to your opponent like this. They'll flatten you out immediately. A lot of distance on the hips. Don't be too stressed with having a solid control of your opponent's legs either. You want to be very loose and always pummeling new hooks in. With butterfly, they'll get around to the side of you a lot. So it's not hard. Pop around like this. That's where my collar tie comes in, and I can easily replace my butterfly hook. So that's the great thing about collar tie. I'm controlling the head. So and she moves around to the outside of me. She can never shut that space. So even without my legs between my opponent, I can always reset my guard. Normally, if Susie tried passing this side, I'd want a collar tie on that side of her body. If she passed this side, I want a collar tie this way around. And she won't be able to shut that distance down. So always start controlling the head. As she tries driving in, flattening you out, which is really quite hard to do if you're on your knees. I really don't like seeing this. If Susie stands up, if she's passing me here and she drops to her knees, worried about me getting on her legs, this is shocking. She will never flatten me out here, and this shows her that she's very concerned about what I can do to her leg attacks and other attacks. She comes up. The way she'd want to approach this is to have her head level with mine. Now, because her hips are level with her head, the moment she drops them underneath the line of her head, she's never flattening. So if she drops to her knees, drops your knees. Her hips are underneath her head. She has no forward pressure as she tries driving in towards my head. Okay. Whereas if she stands up and keeps this 90-degree angle here, now she flattens me out, I'm going back. So Susie sits down. You're approaching a butterfly guard, standing. Bring me back a little bit. What do you want to be doing? 90 degrees. But out, head level with your hips. And now, this can end up in really quite weird positions because Susie can drop her head really low. So she brings her head forward and she's going to be looking up at my nose like this. So to counter that, I will have to go this low. Susie might even go even lower. So I'd have to go this low in order to flatten her out. We can manipulate the rule with the head position on top as well. So I could pop Susie's head down underneath mine, and this opens up back tips for me. So if I get her head underneath mine, I can start looking to run round and pass, or immediately go to back ticks by hitting an underhook, kneeing her in the head as I go around. So yeah, just if somebody's playing butterfly on you and you're concerned with leg locks, don't drop to your knees, trying to be heavy on your knees. That's kind of stalling the position a little bit. I would recommend stand at 90 each and use your head as a battering ram to try and flatten your opponent first. So, yeah. We'll stop there for a moment. Any questions, any thoughts on that position? Anything you'd like me to go off on that?
Ross, can you show that back take again?
Yeah, I think it's called, what's it called? Something like a 1000% back take or something. So if you pull your opponent's head down here, you underhook with the other arm. And now you step around. I take this gable on her shoulder sitting down. So you see this leg? You got up. Yeah, pull the head down. Under this knee, the other leg is inside her legs. Drops down. We end up here. I gable on the shoulder, pulling her head down to the floor, allowing me to get my other hook in here. So they'll panic a lot when they get this grip in. You get here, so you see this gable on the shoulder? There. So I can use this now to sit and take the back. So again. Pull the head down, gable the shoulder. From here, this left knee, left leg steps forward, knee drops, and we sit into the back. Yeah, I was just starting to use that a little bit when lockdown hit. It's quite good.
Thank you.
As a passer, though, it's a good concept. If I'm able to hold Susie's head down like this, walking around in a seatbelt is a lot easier. Sorry, didn't mean to knee in the back. To be fair, you kicked me loads when you've been doing this.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there another hold or like pressure that you can do on the top of the body that isn't holding the head? Because Basil told me to do that, and I've been doing it, and people just get fucked off and toss me onto the ground when I do it because they think it's disrespectful.
What do you mean? So, as the person sitting down?
Yeah.
The head's probably the easiest one to start with, but
Like, does it work if you push the opposite shoulder or something like that?
You want to mix it up. So you can push back at them with a straight arm. Susie will probably push back at me. So then switch it to a collar tie, pulling down, and then having her pull back will then open up space for me to get underneath it. Pull it on the shoulder. That's not going to work. You need a bigger handle. It's a little bit too close to her core for me to get any sort of pull here. Susie doesn't want me like that in happening. So you're going to have to take a handle on the head. But what you go for off of it is entirely up to you.
What part of it do they think is disrespectful?
People don't like you grabbing their head.
I mean, I'm probably doing it in like an arrogant dickhead way. That's probably the issue, is not the technique, it's my attitude.
I don't like people grabbing my head, but it's not because it's disrespectful, it's because I end up in guillotines.
Exactly. So yeah, and so it comes on to a little bit of a concept of you've got to mix this up. Don't expect to get somebody by going, okay, Ross showed me this technique where I pull down on the head, wrap up the neck, and I get the finish. Reality, it looks more like this. You pull, she stops it. You go for an underhook or something like that. She goes to, she repummels an underhook on you. Now you have to shift back, and you have to go back and forth between trying to pull her down and trying to get underneath her. Okay, so we'll show a couple other options here. If I pull Susie's head down and she pulls back, quite often there's big windows now for me to come in for underhooks here. So with the underhook, I like cupping the hip, and I rotate my left shoulder up. I do not want any weight coming through this hip. So what Susie will try and do is sit back and shimmy weight to this side of me. So there. Now she's way too heavy for me to sweep that way. So I don't want that. So come back. When we hit the underhook, I'm going to flare this shoulder like this. So that flare makes it a lot harder for her to get her weight back this way. That flare is made more difficult the higher my hand is, which is why I don't take an underhook on the hip, up on the armpit. So if I take the underhook on the armpit, now she can collapse weight over. Obviously, if she goes that far, I'm sweeping her that way, right? She wants to, it's like walking a tightrope. When you're passing butterfly, you want to be centered. So Susie throwing all her weight off of this way means I'm going to sweep her in this direction. She wants to hold the center, so she shifts weights directly onto this hip. Now it's hard. This hand, we want to be low down on the hip. And we want to start falling backwards fraction with this shoulder rolling up here. So now it's very hard for it to shift weight back onto that hip. Quite often this is accompanied by a base on this hand here. She is going to use this hand to push back and get weight back onto this hip. So when we see this, we can either attack it or take it out to help us sweep. So to take a base and arm out, we want to go palm, index finger pointing to the shoulder. Here. Elbow connects with the wrist, and I pull the forearm out like this. So doing it with the entire your whole forearm makes it a lot easier to buckle this arm to get rid of it. What I don't like seeing is people pulling, and this annoys me. When I base on my arm and somebody grabs my elbow and pulls it really hard to take this arm out, it's just, don't do that. If you pull on the forearm, it quite often snags if there's a lot of weight going through this arm. Which I am putting weight through it because I'm falling to this side a little bit. Whereas if I go whole forearm connected to hers, no matter how much weight and how hard she stops me from trying to move this, it will come out. And Susie's really trying. What will make it hard is if you point your fingers that way and really wide. So whole forearm will take that out. Finger up, slip. We want to pull this wrist now through to our hip. So this is lowering this shoulder. Now we're getting this big twist on her body. From here onto your side and your head. My lower leg comes out and toes hit the ground, and I use those toes to lift my hips up. And there's the butterfly sweep. You see, there is never any space between my butterfly hook and her knee, even when I'm coming up on the top here. What a lot of people will try and do if you've got a loose butterfly hook is pull the foot past their hip and now start attacking your legs. So really important when you're coming up on top of a butterfly hook, that stays connected to your opponent. Never want any space between that and the underside of her knee. So taking one heel close to your butt, remember, makes it difficult for your opponent to pummel a leg inside and win inside leg position, which make it a lot easier for her to pass. So in tight. We'll start attacking the head by pulling this down. Your reaction is to pull it up. Now we can start coming under for our underhooks, where we want to grab the hip and shoulder shrug, getting that shoulder nice and high. She will base to try and push her weight back off in this direction. I'm going to take this basing arm out, bring it to me. I pull the arm under me. So you see this elbow isn't high now, it's connected to my hip. I rock onto my shoulder, my toes are always flared. Now I lift my hips up, and I'm always connected to my opponent's knee. From here, I like going 3/4 mat, finishing on top. So, one last time.
Ross, sorry, just before you do that, your right foot, are you deliberately trying to keep it on the outside of her right knee or on the inside, or does it not really matter too much? Out.
How to describe this? So if it's outside the line of her body, she needs to get weight to the other side of this foot in order to shut the sweep down, right? Yeah. So if I put to the outside of her, the distance she has to move that weight is bigger. Okay. So if she brings her weight over this foot and down through this hip, it shuts down. Now, if this foot is here, that sweep now fails with weight over the line of this heel. Like, I will not be able to pick her up. So, yes, an example. If we shimmy this way a little bit, you can see my feet and a bit further. So, I'm sweeping, my toes are outside her. If you try shimmying her weight back a little bit, I can still sweep for a long time until her weight gets so shimmy all the way here. Now I can't sweep back. If my toes are here, collapses so much earlier.
Yeah.
So bring these toes out, side, so hook in foot. There. Now this leg will be far harder for her to collapse with her weight. Try dropping weight through it. Now if I bring, just to illustrate, the foot back in, drop weight through it, collapses immediately.
Yeah.
Bring in that. Now it makes that leg a lot stronger.
Okay, thanks.
The big point of the butterfly sweep, make it strong. Move on to another point with the mechanics of it. Do not try and elevate them from the inside of their thigh. You want to elevate them from their knee. The further from back center, this leg moves up the inside of her thigh, the worse it is. The heavier she gets, and the more counter passes she has, the more likely she is to collapse your knees. When you're playing butterfly, or what you hook in underneath your opponent's knee. So pull the head down, she pulls back. We hit our underhook here. She bases. Now this time we're a little bit slow. Maybe they're really strong, right? And the bigger, the stronger they are, the more down this chain you have to go to get them. So they push off of this hand, and now they start loading my hips. There's no way I'm going to get their weight over that way in order to sweep them anymore. So what I can do to attack this arm is bring my head under, releasing this underhook, and now looking to attack this arm here. So bring the crease of your elbow, wrapping up her elbow. And now this foot that was basing on the floor originally for the sweep in that direction comes back in and pops in front of this hip. This hand will bring her elbow up, which will be now really easy to move because the arm isn't loaded anymore. I turn onto this side. Now when finishing these violin arm bars, you will not hit a finish unless your elbow is facing the ceiling. So if your elbow is off to the side here, that's why as soon as he brings her head to center and head up, please, so above mine. I can apply this really quite hard. It's not coming on, right? So, the moment I get an angle on my hips and get my elbow facing the ceiling, my hips back, I can drop through and apply the arm bar. So when you're attacking this off an attempted butterfly sweep, and the basing arm comes in, and you underhook here, don't stop, flatten your hips here. Go entirely through the turn until your hips are out to this side and your elbow is vertical. My favorite grip to take here is a butterfly grip. So that is hands crossed. 1, 2. It's quite weird to start with. hands facing away from you. Don't grab your forearms with your thumbs, no thumbs. You want to cup both sides, so keep your thumbs connected to your hands. There, that's the butterfly grip, really strong. So, that's better, good. We can go immediately for this arm, so it might not be as big an exaggeration, as big as movement as her basing on the floor. It might be something as subtle as me pulling on the head, so starting with her elbows tight, and she starts pushing back at her knee. So as I pull her down, she pulls back. So you see how her elbow starts parting from her rib cage? That's enough for me to go under and now start looking to get this arm up onto my shoulder. If they're on a basing arm, I'll go immediately to attacking that straight arm bar, probably. If they're a little bit tighter and I'm just getting this really kind of narrow gap, I'll go across the shoulder. Maybe start with a gable, move into, I'll go straight to a butterfly grip. But I want it across the shoulder here. There's better control, we got more sweeps off of this. If I try here to go immediately for the elbow, there's too much time between me trying to isolate the arm and putting it into the arm bar for her to limp arm out. So if I try controlling here, all Susie needs to do is turn her elbow to the ground and that arm will come clear. So if you're concerned about somebody you're fighting somebody that likes this sort of arm bar, all you do, you really get into the habit of flicking that elbow down. So maybe I get you to base, yeah, and I come in to attack it, Susie sees it, flicks the elbow down, and I lose that arm bar. There. Catching it out. So. Come in, butterfly grip on the shoulder. Now here, we really want to use our butterfly hooks, not just to generate space and to slide down her arm, but creating angles. We want to be kicking her away from her arm, falling onto the side that her arm is on, and isolating like that. When you're applying this, I don't want to see forearms running parallel with the floor. I want your forearm vertical with the crease of your elbow over her elbow. Now you'll get tight finishes. We'll start dropping here. You will not get finishes like this, and your opponent is very likely just to limp arm out of this position. And she's cool. So I talked for a long time there. Yeah, a half hour. You just tell me to shut up and ask questions. But have you got any questions off of that? Any pathways you want to discuss?
Ross, you might be coming on to right after this, but how do you switch from the reverse armbar to like the butterfly hook, the butterfly sweep that, you know, like Gordon Ryan did against Pachecha?
That's all about reading their weight, right? So now, thing that we got here, we got two legs in between. That's why butterfly hooks are great with this, because you've got so much power in forcing your opponent either to go one way or the other. So you want your opponent to be, if Susie allows me to kick her away and lie onto this side, I'm attacking this arm. So what they often do, the threat of that will force your opponent to try and drive their weight back to center. Okay, so what they're trying to do is to drive back here. But because I've got the arm isolated, it's impossible for her to get weight down through this hip. So I've still got a hell of a lot of hip mobility. So she's really walking a tightrope here. Totally, very different with an arm wrap. The concept is similar in that she's worried about me forcing her off in this direction and isolating this arm. But because her arm is underneath mine, if she manages to drive back to center, she'll get weight through the hip, which will limit my hip movement. The great thing about this sweep of the Gordon hip is as she starts driving back center, she can't get weight through my hips, so I've still got a lot of movement on my hips. So once she's driving back, I'm going to fall onto my left side. So she goes back, fall onto the left side like this. So now she's overshot the center line. I'm pulling her shoulder to me. That's really important. There's 3 movements going on here at the same time. Shoulders coming to me. My left elbow is going to rise underneath her chin. My right elbow is going to drop to my hip, pulling her out from under, pulling her underneath herself. So shoulder to you, left elbow rises, right elbow drops. This all makes this leg super light now, so the sweep is easy. Again, so Susie can do it. Sit down. So I'm fighting tight elbows. Susie will start with a collar tie. Probably not with that arm. I tend to want to go with my left to feed my stronger arm for guillotines. So I just go weak hand collar tie, left one. So here I start pulling back and flaring my elbows to not allow it to. You're going to go gable on this. So you're going to come. And the gable should come across the shoulder. There. So if you want to do the control bit, shoulder. Take a butterfly grip instead. So butterfly is that and around. But again, you see how Susie's control has moved down onto my arm. She wants to be isolating that shoulder. That's massive, guys. You want your hands wrapped around the shoulder joint. The moment Susie moves this control a little bit off center and onto my arm, it's easy for me to slip my elbow. If that control is on my shoulder, she's pulling the shoulder to her. Now it's stuck. And it's a question of a couple of centimeters. There, easy. Shoulder joint, hard, right? So I'm concerned here with Susie falling onto this side. And there's varying degrees of this. Susie could go all the way through the isolation of this arm. I push back at this point and she sweeps late here. Or it could be done like with Gordon and Bouchetti. I didn't really notice that Gordon was trying to threaten the arm too much to this side. Bouchetti was already driving in center. Susie's hands pull my shoulder down. There it is. I still can't twist my arm out. She's unlocked my shoulder in. Elbow starts rising, right elbow drops, leg gets light, easy sweep.
Why are you smiling?
You did it right, yeah.
Okay. I thought you were smiling because it's wrong.
No, it's really good. So yeah, that's the Gordon sweep he hit on Bouchetti, and that's kind of why it was difficult for Bouchetti to counter that. Really hard for him to get his weight through Gordon's hips. You see Gordon's hips, so he's playing this sit-up butterfly guard, it's always like way out. Super chill. Yeah. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
I am like worried on this side, being like, am I just sounding all good? Anyway, so yeah, good question. Any other questions?
When you're on the shoulder, when and how do you go back down to the arm? Because you're saying while you're on the shoulder, they can't limp arm out. But if you want to attack the arm,
yeah, it's a good point. You want to so you've got your shoulder control, the gable. So now, as you pick them away, you want to switch the control to threaten the arm by moving this crease of your elbow and slide it down that elbow there. Now, moving back up to this control, I can't do, and I wouldn't want to do, unless my opponent drives their weight back over the top of me to center. So now I've got back onto the shoulder because she's protected her arm. If we start here, now move into the arm lock control would be, as I kick away, we slide from the shoulder, moving the crease of our elbow directly onto her elbow. Now, get it. Oh, another big thing in this control, guys, your head, again, has to be strong. So the control works far less effectively if your head is high like this. You want to be driving your head into your opponent's arm, whether that is from the elbow control or up on the shoulder. Also makes her limp arming out very difficult. So if he tries turning, very hard. Likewise here. If my head is loose, easy. If my head is driving in, hard. So you want to be like trying to get your ear to your shoulder with her arm jammed in there. It's a big part of the control when I spit in this. But again, you should always be ready to move on to something else. I don't often just hit this and get it. Your opponent will pull their arm clear, forcing it out, which will then allow me to shoot in for underhooks again. Okay, so the collar tie, pulling her head down. She puts her hands on my knees, trying to pull her weight backwards because she's worried about me threatening her neck. So I go under and look for this arm isolation, either a gable or a butterfly grip. Susie tears this arm free. I chase my underhook, move into my butterfly sweeps. Susie repummels her underhook on this side, so here. Or she can try framing on my face to create enough space to get this underhook back. So this is really common, this forearm bar across your face. My counter, and then she'll look to hit the underhook. So if she leaves that forearm in front of my chin for a little bit, this hand comes up off the floor, reaches through up to her shoulder, and make sure that you get your arm over her wrist to pull the arm by and now start threatening the back. So if they don't immediately, and you're in this bit of a battle where your opponent's trying to forearm you in the face to create space to underhook, this hand comes up and over, cupping the shoulder, meat of the hand in the armpit, pulling that shoulder through. And you get these big reactions of not very much. The reason why we're seeing that big reaction is because I'm not gripping the elbow. Here you get far littler reactions because the arm and the shoulder joints act as a suspension. So I've got to take all the slack out the arm before she moves. Whereas if I come up on the shoulder for the drag, there's no suspension, so you get these big reactions coming through. So really, arm drags went through the roof for me when I stopped looking for the elbow and I started looking for that shoulder. So collar tie, she pulls back. I hit my underhook. She repummels and goes forearm in the face. If she goes full underhook, we have to switch to an arm wrap. So as soon as she was fine there, she went straight for that. So here, that's the arm wrap. If Susie comes in and lingers with this forearm for a little bit, this hand's going to come through and we're going to look for an arm drag. She pulls, if I screw up the arm drag a little bit and she pulls it back, we're going to get, well, she's not going to pull back that high, she'll probably pull back fairly low. We get back onto the neck and we're at the start of the sequence again. So it might go around full circle all over again. So we'll look at just a back take to finish. We've got our underhook. She comes in with her right forearm across my face to generate a bit of space. Hand comes through, up onto the shoulder, pull back. Here. So if we hit this great arm drag, we're on the back. Sometimes what we'll hit is an arm drag, but Susie, very good control of her weight, will manage to shift her weight back to center again. So this will make it very hard for me to extract this hook and threaten the back. So what we do here, she doesn't have a basing arm behind me now. So cup the armpit, fall onto your back, and hit butterfly sweeps off to this side instead. Into the bookshelf. Does anyone end up there? I end up there a lot. So the position I'm asking about is when you've arm dragged and you feel like you should be able to get the back, but you can't get your legs out to the back. That position. Anyone?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I saw some nods then. Thank you.
But I assume that's because I was too lazy to get up and get to the back.
Who always thought that about myself, not you. So yeah, Susie, what will happen a lot is Susie will throw this knee up here to make it very difficult for you to extract that hook and keep her weight centered. So what you can do there, fall onto your back just a little bit, keeping this arm drag, and keep this hand, fingers in the armpit. Now I want to turn onto my side as I'm falling to my back, and that's where you'll hit the butterfly switch. Now, big error on me, I lost my butterfly hook because my toes weren't flared. So if you ever end up when you're drilling this with your leg floating above your opponent, do it again, don't drill it enough. So.
Would you ever go over the back of the neck with the same kind of like gable to pull her back like you did before earlier?
Yeah, you could
That
do
position.
that. So off the drag, you drag it a little bit.
Yeah, or is she a bit too high?
Yeah, you could totally do that. I'd more look to do that in a turtle. Yeah, I could do that. Which is really grim. I'm not going to do that in Susie while she got back.
Sorry, Susie.
But I quite like that control. It's almost a quarter Nelson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so we drag, armpit. We can't extract this because controlling her weight is too tight on this side. So we're really struggling to extract our leg and to take the back. So armpit and armpit. From here onto your back first a little bit, bringing her weight forward and up off of her knees. That's why we fall backwards a little bit with this. Weight comes up off of the knees. Now I can fall and I can sweep. And she's pointing at my foot. Sorry, I didn't want to throw you into the book. So, not very many moves tonight, guys. That's like 4. And I think I'll continue with this on Thursday as well. Just kind of looking through as many grip changes and chaining this position together as much as possible. What I don't want to see when you guys come back grappling is I want the collar tie and just be battling here for 20 seconds trying to pull their head under yours. What I want to see is you pulling on the head, resistance, you flicking underhooks, her repummeling her arm, you're looking for arm wraps or looking for arm drags off of that way. So I want you constantly chaining, and we'll look at this position in a little bit more detail again. Any thoughts, any questions? 45 minutes in, so. Anything you guys want to talk about?
Just because it was the position you were just doing, I've seen Dean Lister talk about it a couple of times on a couple of different videos, but I've never seen anyone do it in training. From that position where you've got that butterfly grip over the shoulder,
Yeah.
He seems to be able to like break people's arm down so it bends like backwards and then takes like a reverse Kimura.
What's this?
Dean Lister.
Dean Lister.
Yeah.
Takes
And it's just it looks great, but it just looks like one of those things that I don't know if I'd ever be able to get anyone's arm to bend that direction.
I don't do it. I'll have a look and see what.
I'll try and dig out the video and send it to you.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. It might be something I'll add into my game. You never know.
Yeah.
Oh, I learned something yesterday. Totally not jiu-jitsu related, but we've been cutting ends off asparagus. Right?
Yeah.
If you just bend it, the dead bit snaps off.
I thought everyone knew that.
We learned that from Lucas Wong, by the way.
It's a good trick.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so something new.
I chop
Here we
it.
go. Tonight's been a learning journey for us all.
And that's the dead bit.
I've done chopping the end or chewing through the like
Yeah.
gritty bit my whole life.
The
Yeah.
woody bit at the end. Nice.
Today,
Oh.
I learned that there's a bear in the mountain on the Toblerone logo, and I never noticed.
Wow.
They didn't know the mountain on the Toblerone logo. Never noticed.
Yeah, there's a bear in the middle of the mountain.
A bear or a beer?
A bear, like, rah, I'm going to eat you, bear.
Like raw.
Not a pint.
Right, guys. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great to see
Thank
you all.
you.
Guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.